I'm not going to pretend to lie on this one or try to not recommend it immediately, but this game has been at the center of my addiction for quite some time now. So let's just get into the review of Slay the Spire, one of my all-time favorite games of all time, ever. A card-based, deck-building, turn-based RNG game that has literally never given me the same experience 2 times in a row. It is that crazy, it's that impactful, it's amazing, it's polished, it's well done, and the devs are still adding content to it. So let's just get into the context here. Now, there isn't a truly branching story or anything to Slay the Spire, but what I can tell you is that everything you do, each run, affects the Spire in different ways, as well as what other players do as well. The Spire lives and exists like any other being, and upon beating the final boss in your run, you deal damage to the Spire's own beating heart. Trippy, right? Not only does it make the Spire angry, but it increases the difficulty of your next run, but we'll get to that in a second. Now, there's really not a lot of context to the game. There's not really a story element that I can talk about, but there's lore, and there's also, like, really late game kind of stuff I'm going to talk about. So if you guys don't want any of that kind of stuff spoiled for you, I'm going to give you about 5 seconds to get the hell out of here. But until then, look at this cat. It's pretty damn cute. Alright, it's officially your fault. And by the way, again, this is my opinion of a game in my video on my channel. I am not a god, I am but a man. My words are not law. So you guys are entitled to your own opinions. But you came here to hear my opinion, so this is my opinion. Let's get into it! Now, clearly there isn't much, like I said, there isn't much story or, like, lore drive to this game. It is purely just gameplay. And that is totally fine because the gameplay is fucking amazing. And it's great, and it's perfect, and I want to sit down with it, and I want to have a romantic dinner with it, and I want to talk about it today, and I want to get to know it, and then I want to marry it, and then I want to fuck it, and then I want to have kids with it, and then I want to die! I just want to be with Slay the Spire! The gameplay more than compensates for the lack of story or lore or anything else that you people think games need. I know that story is an important drive in my reviews and such, but with no story to review, let's just get right into the gameplay aspects. Where do I even begin? Let's just start with the 3 characters available to play as right now. And one more is supposedly coming as word from the developers, and it's going to come for free. Oh, I love this game. The Ironclad is a standard knight-like character with a twist. He sold his soul to a devil or a demon, giving him links to fiery skills and attacks. Demonic and twisted, his cards deal damage, increasing his strength, spilling his own blood for damage or for even buffs, and exhausts his cards to play them without energy cost or to do so much more damage. The Silent, a sneaky rogue and one of the harder characters to play as, she uses poison cards that deal damage over the course of turns and can devastate the enemy. Or she'll use Shivs, a 0-cost card that deals 4 damage. After a few cards to summon these and a bit better accuracy, she can devastate foes with them, dealing increased damage. And last but my favorite, the Defect, a robotic humanoid who channels the power of elements in the form of orbs, each dealing damage, giving him more energy, or granting block at the end of his turn. He has a huge number of power cards as well that fully change the way you approach combat within one run itself, like Echo Form, which grants you a second copy of the first card you play in a turn and plays it for you at a 0 cost. These 3 characters are incredibly unique and each have their own playstyles and gimmicks to learn and exploit. But you're not going to get far unless you know the basics of the game, so let's talk about those for a second. At the start, you choose your character and gain their starting relic, and before you spirals the map of your first act in the Spire. You will get to choose now and after every level which path you'd like to go and climb on the Spire. However, not all paths are certain. In the game, there are monster fights, treasure, mystery, elite fights, merchant floors, and the life-saving rest areas. Before you make your first choice, you must console with the Great Spire Whale, who will grant you bonuses before your journey as long as you have at least made it to the first boss in your last run. Unknown tiles are quite often my go-to, as they give you scenarios or other events that get you to make a choice in anywhere from giving a beggar money, taking a relic from a tomb, or even advancing to the boss early. Merchants offer cards, relics, and potion in exchange for gold you found on your quest, and he is quite the pleasant lad.
Rest areas allow you to either regain health or increase the strength of one of your cards, and with the addition of certain relics you can perform other actions like toke, dig, or even lift! The game centers, though, around its standard combat. You enter the room and your opponent or opponents lie across from you. You can see their hit points and their intent, whether that be to cause you damage, give you a debuff, or even add dud cards to your deck like Slimed or Dazed. But these enemies won't act till the end of your turn. After drawing 5 cards from your deck, you choose who gets damaged if you block to prevent damage to yourself, acquire powers, or use skills to debuff your enemy. All while keeping in mind you only get 3 standard energy to use on your turn, and certain cards cost more than others. After you win, you'll get to choose between one of 3 cards to add to your deck to improve you in further combats.
I think this game's concept is incredibly simple and very well done, and if you don't understand a concept or a card, what a debuff does, what a relic does, all you have to do is hover over them with your cursor, and you'll see what something does, how long it's going to be there for, what a relic can do, what powers you have. You can even do this with enemy intents, like if you have an intent, and if they have an intent and then they hit you, it'll tell you what it gave you, it'll tell you what they intend to do next. It's really, really cool. It's a really simplistic thing, and I love the turn-based behind it. And I think that's what I love the most about Slay the Spire. It doesn't try to exclude anybody, it includes everyone. It's played at your own pace. There's no timer for a turn. There's nothing like that. You can read up. You could sit down. You could do the math on what kind of card you're going to draw next out of your stack. You can do the probability on how much damage you're going to be able to predict next turn. It's just great. It's simple. I love it so, so much. And it's just a good damn game. And I just want to communicate that to you guys. It's just great. It includes everyone. It's not too crazy. It's not too complex. It's all there. And if you know the game enough and you know what cards to grab, you can do some of the most devastating things I've ever seen. Like give someone 300 poison on turn 4. I don't know how the fuck to do that, but someone's done it!
Standard fights are riddled throughout all 3 acts of the Spire, and as long as you are prepared, can be challenging but usually not lethal. Usually. The more you play, the more you'll begin to realize that the true power of characters can come from relics. How do you get these awesome trinkets? Mystery floors, buying them with merchants, and killing elites. I absolutely love Slay the Spire for its boss combat, and I'll show you why. Each act has their own elites, or mini-bosses, and act bosses. Act 1 elites usually test you more on survivability over everything else. The Gremlin Knob gains strength with each skill you use. The Lagavulin deals devastating damage and can siphon away your strength and dexterity if you have a prolonged fight with him. And the Sentry Trio, who deal large amounts of damage whilst filling your deck up with dazes, leading to complete unplayable hands, and a prolonged battle equals death.
Beating these challenges grants you a new relic, so the risk-reward there is really, really a hard drive into what you want to do with your character and what you want to do with your run. And not just in this kind of combat, but in relics, events, treasures. It depends on where you go. The risk and reward is great. Will you go to a campfire, but you have to fight an elite next? Or will you have to go to an elite to get to a campfire? Or will you get to this treasure chest, but you have to span 4 combats and you only have 20 health? It's a really big, hard risk and reward system, and I love it for it.
Act 1's floor boss, the big bastards at the end of the path, and the true test of your deck and skills as a player. Although intimidating, these bosses are much easier than the ones to come. 3 bosses exist in this slot. The Hexaghost, who starts with a devastating fire barrage and continually adds burns to your deck to deal more damage. The Guardian, who switches from attack mode to defense depending on how much damage you've dealt. And the Slime boss, who splits into 2 every time you take down more than half of its health. But after you beat them, you get to choose between 3 relics to bring with you. So it's not all bad, right?
All of Act 1 is a test to make you learn as a new player the game, what cards work together, how you like to navigate the map, and all the normal kind of tutorial-like stuff you'd expect. That's all within Act 1. The bosses are a little bit more forgiving, but then you get to Act 2, and Act 2 is where I die the most and where things get way more serious.
Harder standard enemies, varying events, fewer campfires, some standard combats can even have elites from Act 1 in them. This is the floor players usually die on, if not from the climb, then from the bastard waiting for them at the end. Act 2's elites are far more unforgiving as well, focusing on swift deaths no matter how prepared you are. Hobgoblin Boss keeps a steady storm of minions coming your way, as well as buffing them with himself included. The Book of Stabbing, a truly unrelenting assault of sharp edges, it doesn't slow down for a second, and if you can't keep up with it, it will claim you quickly. And the Taskmaster and Slave trio, one keeps up the damage, one debuffs you constantly, and one that can stop you from attacking turn after turn. Quite deadly if not dealt with quickly. The act bosses are even less forgiving, and I've died to them more than any other bosses in the game. Strong, beefy, and with considerably more tricks up their sleeve. If your deck isn't well made with relics to back it up, you will fall fast. Fall right back to the first floor and the character select. Champion, the biggest egomaniac. He constantly debuffs and pumps out damage, and after reaching a third of his health, he becomes even stronger. The Collector, with Torchhead minions backing him up, he deals considerable damage and eats away at you until he can add you to his collection. Or the Bronze Automaton, who summons buddies to steal cards from your deck, as well as shield him so he can unleash beams that will wipe you off the face of the fucking planet.
If you're skilled and lucky enough to pull cards that will get you to the third act, the standard enemies alone are some of the hardest in the game, and the boss and elite fights will leave you dead before you can even react to them if you're not careful.
The Nemesis, what I can only describe is as an angry cow spirit. Every other turn only takes 1 damage from each of your attacks, and deals nasty damage back. Giant Head, sporting a ridiculous amount of health, he over time does increased damage, so if you can't shred through him fast enough, he'll desecrate you. And the Reptomancer, who constantly summons blades that after a few turns attack and deal massive damage in a suicide kamikaze way. The act bosses are the most merciless in all the game, dealing truly unblockable amounts of damage, and killing you as quickly as they can to block the Spire from taking any more damage from players. Time Eater. After you play 12 cards, he ends your turn automatically, and deals sickening damage. Upon getting him under 100 health, he regains to half and buffs himself. The Awakened One, sporting cultists by his side and dealing constant damage, he is not to be trifled with, and after draining 1 health bar, he sports an additional one. And Deka and Dona, the two take turns shielding and buffing one another while dealing damage. If you don't take out at least one quickly, they will get too powerful and roll over you like fresh mulch.
But if you beat the third act boss, you will get to then strike at the heart and deal what you scored as your run score to the heart, and then you get to see how much damage everyone as players and as yourself have dealt damage to it, which is really a neat aspect to it. It kind of brings the community together a little bit better. But after you beat a third boss wave with all 3 characters, you unlock the ability to grant keys, which will unlock the 4th act after that. I've never made it there personally myself, but you fight the heart in the 4th act, and let me tell you, it's intense. The thing does 200 damage a turn, I hear, and I don't want to even touch that damn thing, but I'm dedicated to get there at some point in my damn life. The RNG element of the game has given me a new and unique experience every single time I've played the game. I think I've played over 300 games of it, and I've pumped 120 hours into the game. So, this is from when it dropped in 2017. I've been behind it since. It is a really great game. I highly recommend it to you guys. It is really amazing. It's never delivered the same experience twice for me. It takes a lot for a game to really grip me and engage me in a small, non-story driven type thing. But this has addicted me with the simple animations, the great visuals that it does, the awesome things you're able to pull off with some card combinations. It is just, I'm going to be playing this until I'm well in the ground, and I know I am. This is by far one of my favorite games of all time, and I am still playing it right now. I didn't put it down like I do with some of the other things that I've put on this first season of Game Grind. This is one I have still played throughout the entire time of this production. And not to mention, I can stay up until 3 in the morning with this game and not feel like I need to be more awake. I can just relax in my chair, and it's still a challenge. All I have to do is click and drag cards and make sure my brain is at least 10% functionality so I can at least get to the second act, just to get slaughtered by the champion again! I highly recommend this to anybody. It does not require much for an operating system, so you can probably play it on a laptop. Just get it. It's at $24, I think, right now. It's a bit of a price increase since it came out, but there's so much more stuff coming, and they're adding a 4th character soon, and I'm really excited to see what it's going to be because I haven't dropped any clues about what it's going to be. So, thank you so much for watching this Game Grade episode, guys. It really does mean a lot to me that you guys watched all the way to the end. Please go support my Patreon page, as I am not able to do stuff like this without money from you guys. I need sandwiches and I need time off from work to do this, and let me tell you, Patreon is the one place that I feel like people actually support me in this endeavor and in this production. And the more money that's pumped in there, the more stuff like this I can bring you guys. So thank you so much if you guys choose to go donate. That will be down in the description if you'd like to go check it out. Also, check out my cutscene cinema video that's going to drop with this video. It's going to be all the cutscenes from the game and all the cinematic edits I did with the game. It should come out same time, same place, same channel, same everything as this one, so I might link that one up here in the corner or something. But thank you again so much for watching, and I will see all you no bros later.